Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Star Trek Voyager Season 4, Episode 5, Revulsion. This was a pretty good episode. This was another one of those, attempts for Star Trek to be, more adult and get more into, the horror franchise. And I've kind of said that about sci-fi in general. I'm going to step aside from Star Trek and just kind of broad. I like when, series and franchises kind of branch out. For example, Star Wars could do so much. I've always talked about how, let's have a buddy cop movie set on Coruscant, or let's have a horror movie, stuff like that. Whereas Star Trek, which has been primarily TV shows and episodes, I feel like they don't do enough with, specific genres of episodes. For example, in today's age, it seems like ever since Buffy the Vampire Slayer came out, every show has had to have a musical episode. Star Trek's never had a musical episode. That would be interesting. We have seen some comedy episodes, and usually they actually play out really well, even with The Next Generation and Voyager. Deep Space Nine even had a few with the Ferengi. And occasionally we get those horror-type episodes. And this one actually did pretty good. It was a really well-done episode. I'll start with the subplot because it was so minor that I almost completely blinked over it, where it's all about Harry and Seven of Nine kind of trying to form this relationship where they have to work together, and Harry's like, I don't want to work with a Borg, are you crazy? And then as they're working together, she misaligns something and she's like, that's not possible. And she looks at it and she's like, well, my human side is reasserting itself. And so throughout the episode, there's some really great lines where she's like, take off your clothes and let's couple and stuff like that. And it's kind of great. It's interesting to listen to the two of them talk. And then Harry has to have a heart-to-heart with Tom, and he has a heart-to-heart with Chakotay. And overall, they do kind of find some friendship going on. And it kind of continues for a while. So I really liked that setup, but it was really minor. Now, the main premise of this episode is Voyager gets a distress call from another hologram. And so the Doctor and B'Elanna go to investigate to see what's going on. Because in the meantime, there's another subplot where Voyager has to, meet with this delegation. It doesn't matter. And anyway, so the Doctor and B'Elanna go to see this hologram, and he's very interesting. It actually reminds me a lot of Psycho. At one point, the hologram brings B'Elanna food, and he's like, oh, you nibble like a fish. And it's very Norman Bates, where he's like, you eat like a bird. And I really like that. I thought that was really well done. And it was great acting and all of that. And as the episode kind of continues, you realize this hologram starts having some real hostility towards B'Elanna, where he's like, you're absolutely disgusting. You have to ingest food, and you sweat, and you have waste, and you're just disgusting. And it turns out that this hologram has actually killed the other members of the crew because he's basically crazy. If a hologram can go crazy, he does. And it's interesting to kind of watch the Doctor at first sides with the hologram. He's like, no, you're misunderstanding him. And the Doctor talks about how at first he was viewed as basically a high-tech tricorder, and he is now viewed as an equal, which I completely agree with. As I've been binge watching this and really dissecting every episode, he is. The Doctor has gotten more and more and more sophisticated as the series continues, and especially now that he has the mobile emitter, he's great. He's a member of the crew at this point. The only thing that bothers me is every time I see him, he doesn't have pips on his collar. And I'm like, can we just add that? Which is something we'll see later on. And then finally, we see this hologram attack B'Elanna and even, stick his hand through her chest. It's an intense scene. There's the obligated scene where they think they deactivate him, but he does pop up. And before they finally do, get rid of him. But overall, it was a good episode. It was, as I said, it's a horror episode, and it is kind of on the edge of your seat, what's about to happen, who's the killer type episode. I think they did pretty good. So overall, I really liked this one. I did think it was really good. If you guys have seen this, what did you think about it? And I will see you guys next time for Raven.